Let's give a warm Livingston welcome to Tommy Sheridan. Remember, if we should use the radio mic, Marty, do you want to use the radio mic? I think I'd rather, if you don't mind. Thanks very much, folks. It allows me to move about a wee bit. If I'm out there, I can't get moving about. Can I also thank Graham? I've never met him, so I don't know who he is. He contacted me on, I think it was Facebook, either Facebook or Twitter, because most of the meetings I've had the pleasure of addressing since January of this year have been organised on the basis of people contacting you on Facebook, on Twitter, sometimes by text message, sometimes by email saying, can you come along and speak as part of the Hope Over Fear Tour and Independence meeting? And of course I say yes. This is the 92nd meeting since January, and it's involved it's incredible because it's involved well over 18,000 people that have turned up at meetings all across Scotland. You always agree to speak at meetings, and sometimes I make a wee mistake because I don't know where they are. Like I get invited to speak at Helmsdale and hand up for my ignorance. I said, no problem. Didn't know it was 70 miles north of Inverness, for God's sake. But anyway, we're up to Helmsdale, we're down to Galashiels, we're down to Campbelltown. And one of the things that has been a great pleasure of this campaign, brothers and sisters, one of the things that's been an absolute pleasure is, as a 50-year-old, having to admit that I didn't realise how beautiful our country is. How absolutely beautiful our country is. Transport links being as they are, you can usually get to somewhere with public transport, but you can't get back that night, so it means you have to drive, and I've had the pleasure of being able to consume some of the most beautiful landscapes on the planet, and that's our wee country, Scotland. Brothers and sisters, I've got to say that I am very, very excited. We've got 17 days now. 17 days to make up our minds. Whether we're going to remain a poverty-stricken, low-paid, homeless, food bank-reliant country that doesn't stand up on its own 2 feet to be counted, or whether we're going to be a country that seizes the time, seizes the opportunity to try and make life better for every man, woman and child that lives in this country. I would say to you, without fear of contradiction, we are neck and neck right now. Neck and neck. I think it's remarkable, given all of the powers that be that have been waged against the Yes campaign, the multi-millionaires, the sirs and the lords and the ladies that have all come out publicly to tell you that they're alright, so we should be alright as well. We've got to vote no. The biased media, a media that should hold its head in shame. 38 newspapers are sold in Scotland. One is for independence. 38 ones for independence, and all of the TV stations have reported this debate in such a biased and distorted fashion that I don't think anyone will ever forgive or forget, particularly the BBC, that has been a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. And yet, despite all of that, all the opinion polls now show that it's neck and neck, and if you look at the canvassing, the detailed canvass results in the working class areas of Scotland, they're returning 65 and 70% support for independence. When you add that to the opinion polls that are based on the panels of people that have to, first of all, apply to become a member of the panel, you know, because you don't do that, there's nothing else in your life, you go, oh, I want to apply to be in that panel. You know yourself, the type of people that I'm talking about. despite those panel results and those opinion polls, when you add them all together, the truth is, brothers and sisters, the absolute truth that we need to take away from this meeting tonight is if every single yes supporter can convince one more voter, between now and the 18th of September, if you can convince one more voter, we're going to wake up on the 19th of September and we're going to be in a free country. We're going to be in a new, independent Scotland. That's the reality, brothers and sisters. This meeting tonight is billed as a public meeting. It's for everyone and anyone to come along and listen to some of the arguments that I intend to give as to why we should be voting yes. Now, there are some of you who will already have made your minds up and you are yes supporters. Brilliant, you're welcome here. I don't want you to leave the hall tonight as a yes voter. I want you to leave the hall tonight 2 feet taller as a yes ambassador and a yes campaigner and a yes crusader. That's what I want you to do tonight. There will be some of you here who have come along undecided, not made your minds up yet. Maybe you've listened to the arguments. Maybe you've tried to find out for yourself some of the most important points, but you want to come along and listen. I hope what you hear tonight convinces you that rather than being undecided, you're going to be someone who believes in hope and vision and rejects the agenda of fear, which is all the No campaign has got to offer. Those of you that have come along tonight, perhaps as no voters, maybe you're saying to yourself, I'm coming along, I'll listen, but I'm in the No camp. I hope we give you some food for thought. I hope what you hear tonight makes you think, well, maybe I should think again. Brothers and sisters, it's very important at the start of these meetings that we differentiate between what this debate is all about and what it's not about. This debate is not about political parties. It's not about politicians. It's not about celebrities. It's not about the millionaires that are telling you to vote no. This vote on the 18th of September has got nothing to do with the millionaires. This vote is about the millions, not the millionaires. That's what we've got to say loud and clear. And what we think, take my hat off to Peter here, SNP councillor, take my hat off to the SNP as a political party over many years, keeping the question of independence on the political agenda. Well done. They and others have kept the question of independence going in the darkest days. But brothers and sisters, most of you, if you've been on Facebook and Twitter, or if you've had a postal vote, you'll have seen the ballot paper. It's very, very simple, brothers and sisters. Should Scotland be an independent country? Yes or no? There is no political party on it. There is no politician on it. There is no political manifesto on it. Please, let's get this absolutely straight. Because the Better Together campaign's trying to distort the debate. They're trying to make us believe this is about the Nats. It's all the Nats this and the Nats that. I'm not a nationalist. I'm a socialist. I'm an internationalist. It's just that I believe our country has the same right to be free as any other country in the world. That's what I believe. This debate isn't about the Nats or Alex Salmond or any other politician. It's a bit like, I use the analogy sometimes. Some of you might have had to save up for a wee house because such is the problems just now. We don't have enough local authority houses getting built. And in independent Scotland we're going to sort that out, I'll tell you. We're going to sort out the 200,000 people that are either on the homeless list or living in overcrowded conditions. We're actually going to think straight. We're going to, it doesn't take rocket science to do it, we're going to think, okay, what have we got? We've got 200,000 people on a homeless list or in overcrowded conditions. We've got hundreds of thousands, predominantly young people, unemployed and who require training. Here's an idea. Why don't we train the joiners, the plumbers, the brickies, the quantity surveyors, and build the houses and tackle the homelessness? Is that a good idea or what? Does that make sense or what? We actually spend public money to employ and train people, pay them wages so they can pay tax, so we don't pay benefit, and we solve homelessness. That's the type of common sense we want introduced into an independent Scotland. But as it is just now, if you want a wee house, you'll be very, very lucky to get a decent, quality, affordable local authority house, so you probably have to buy in the private sector. So you have to save up. You have to save up long and hard. And I want to give you a wee analogy of the wee house you've got your eye on. Wee 3-bedroom number, lovely garden. You save up for the deposit, you contact your estate agent, I'd love to see it, I'd like to see inside, no problem, they take you along. They show you around, they think, oh, this is brilliant, marvellous big kitchen, beautiful toilet, oh, cracking big fireplace. The estate agent says, well, we've been through the finances, you can afford it. Are you going to buy it? And you say, nah, I'm not going to bother. The estate agent says, why? I don't like the wallpaper. Now, how stupid would that be, eh? How stupid would that be? Because as we all know, you can change the wallpaper. Brothers and sisters, see if some of you there don't like the SNP, don't like Alex Salmond, or don't like any other politicians. That's not a reason not to vote independence. Because in 2 years' time, in 2016, there will be a Scottish general election and you can vote for whatever politician or political party you want. The only difference is, brothers and sisters, if first of all on the 18th of September we vote independence, it means in 2016 when you vote for whoever you want, they'll actually be running your country. That's the difference if you vote for independence. That's the difference. We have to say it loud and clear. We are not voting on the 18th of September for a party, for a politician. We are voting for the right to decide who runs our country in the future. That's what the 18th of September is all about. So let's be clear. This debate is not about political parties or politicians. This debate, quite fundamentally, is about freedom. Freedom. Now, some people might say, oh, hey, Tommy boy there, he said Braveheart CD on the car on the way to Livingston for Cardonald tonight. He's obviously a wee bit hyped up. Has he left the claymore and the kilt and the motor? Is it really about freedom? We're not exactly in a prison, we're not exactly in shackles and chains, we might not even be in handcuffs. I know a thing or two about being in handcuffs. By the way, just in case there's any gutter state journalists in here tonight, none of it for kinky reasons, I'll tell you. Brothers and sisters, we might not be in literal handcuffs, but this wee country is in political handcuffs. Political handcuffs, I'll tell you why. Since 1951. Since 1951, this wee country, Scotland, has rejected the political creed of greed. This wee country, Scotland, has rejected the political manifesto that determines the way to motivate the working class is you pay them less and get them to work longer. But the way to motivate the ruling class is you cut their taxes and increase their bonuses. This wee country, Scotland, has rejected the political idea that public services are for sale to the city spivs in London to make them even richer than they already are. In other words, since 1951, this wee country, Scotland, has rejected Tory governments every single election since 1951. But here's the political handcuffs. We as a country have rejected Tory governments every election since 1951, but we've had to endure 35 years of Tory governments that we never voted for. 35 years of the likes of Thatcher. Thatcher, who despised this country, despised the fact that we had the temerity to reject her principles, to reject her values. When she stood and lectured the country that there's no such thing as society, we beg to differ here in Scotland. We said, no, there is such a thing as society. Looking out for your neighbour, looking out for the elderly, looking out for the disabled citizens. That's society, and we believe in society here in Scotland. We believe in it. She despises for standing against her. That's why she took the axe to her steel industry, to her shipbuilding, to her mines. Think about it. I can remember visiting at the start of the miners' strike in 1984, visiting places like Cumnock, visiting places like Killock, visiting places like Bilston, visiting places that up until then didn't know unemployment. They knew full employment. They were full of hope and aspiration. There was work for people. There was a vibrancy in those communities. They didn't know poverty and low pay. They certainly didn't know anything about heroin. Sadly, after that woman got her hands on this country, they know about heroin now, and they know about low pay, and they know about poverty. She destroyed the communities. She tried to bring this country to its knees, destroyed and deindustrialised us, tried to get us into line, but still we rejected her. Still we refused to support her policies. And of course it came to the poll tax. She thought she was the Iron Lady, didn't she? She can get away with anything by then. Give the Scots a year earlier. Let them have the poll tax a year earlier. I'm invincible, I'm the Iron Lady. I've taken on the miners, I've taken on the printers, I've taken on the nurses, I've even taken on Galtieri. Wasn't my blood that was shed, but I took them on anyway. Invincible, she thought. Brothers and sisters, we showed in that last grassroots campaign, we showed that if we all stick together, we can beat these politicians. Not only did we ditch the poll tax, but we made sure that we sent Mrs. Thatcher to the political knackers yard where she belongs. The Iron Lady was melted down. The Iron Lady was melted. This campaign here dwarfs the anti-poll tax campaign. That was a huge grassroots campaign. This is 100 times bigger, more vibrant, spread across all of Scotland. We didn't vote for Thatcher, but we had 18 years of suffering under her. Now we'll get the son of Thatcher. That spawn. David, Toffee boy, Cameron, fresh out of public school. Would they know struggle if it fell in his heat? He and his pals in this condemned cabinet. Think about this for a minute. 29 members of your cabinet, 29 members. 23 of them personal millionaires. 23 out of 29 personal millionaires. In society as a whole, by the way, in society as a whole, 0.7% of the population are millionaires. The cabinet, 80% millionaires. How unrepresentative is that of society? These people, they sat around a table last April. This bunch of political space cadets sit there in the Starship Enterprise, and they discuss, how can we pay for all these debts now? You know, we've got all these debts. We didn't have enough money to bail out the shipyards. We couldn't bail out the mines. We couldn't bail out the steel yards. But by goodness, we had to bail out the banks, you know. We gave them £1.2 trillion of public money because we didn't want the chaps and chapesses going under. And how did they pay for it? Think about this. How many Livingston pensioners do you know? How many local authority workers in Livingston do you know? How many local authority workers, health workers do you know were responsible for the economic crash of 2008? None of them. None of them. Why the hell is it then? Why the hell is it they're paying for it? Why are working class people paying for the economic mistakes of the rich? Austerity should be redefined. Punishing the poor for the greed and the mistakes of the rich. That's what austerity is all about. That's what it's about. And we sat round last April, this bunch, and they thought, oh, what can we do? How can we save some money? Oh, I've got a good idea. I've got a good idea. Gives one chap who comes from a 14-bed stately home. He says, why don't we, 14-room stately home, why don't we introduce a wee tax that attacks these pesky folks that live in council houses and housing association houses? Do you know what they're doing now, these working class folk? They're actually giving their kids separate bedrooms. How dare they? How dare they? And just because their pay's too low, they're claiming housing benefit. We've got to do something about that. Let's introduce a bedroom tax. Let's introduce a bedroom tax that punishes the poor for the crime of being poor. You claim housing benefit, it's a means-tested benefit. You don't get it unless you're poor. And while we're at it, they said, while we're at it, why don't we punish that other vulnerable group of citizens as well, the disabled? The disabled, whose only crime was to go to local authorities and say, here's my housing needs. I've got a dialysis machine, I've got a wheelchair, I've got a partner who's had to give up their job to look after me full time because my illness is so bad I can't sleep throughout the night. I need a spare bedroom for my partner to sleep in, because if he doesn't get his sleep or she doesn't get her sleep, then I'm going to need a full-time carer off the state. So by doing what they're doing, they're saving the state money. And what did these swine come along and do? We're going to punish you. We're going to reduce your housing benefit £14 a week in order to save £500 million, they said. Next item on the agenda that day, because we're all in it together. Next item on the agenda. Oh, listen chaps, we've had some representation from our friends. They get paid £150,000 a year and more, and they're complaining. They're paying too much in tax. They want a tax cut. In this time of austerity, when we're all in it together, let's cut the taxes of those on incomes above £150,000 from 50 pence in the pound to 45 pence in the pound. Because we're all in it together. That's what they did. The same day they introduced the bedroom tax, they introduced the tax cut for the millionaires to mean that today, 13,000 millionaires in this country pay £100,000 a year less in tax than they did last year. Because we're all in it together. My arse, we're all in it together. My arse, we're all in it together. This is government of the rich, by the rich, for the rich. That's what this represents. And this wee country, Scotland, never voted for it. We never voted for bedroom tax. We never voted for ATOS. We never voted for the welfare cuts. We never voted for the privatisation of the mail service. We never voted for any of that, brothers and sisters. You, as a people, have the freedom to look your kids in the eye, to look your grandkids in the eye, and say loud and clear, on the 18th of September, I'm going to do something that makes me proud. I'm going to make sure, by voting yes, that you'll never ever have to suffer a Tory government in Scotland ever again. That's what a yes vote's about. That's what a yes vote means, brothers and sisters, that we can prevent future generations having to suffer the despair and the destruction that these people who govern on behalf of the millionaires will bring to our communities. And by the way, just right from the outset here, let's be clear, when I'm talking about the Tories, I'm talking about the red Tories as well. What is Mr. I've got it in black and white here for Mr. Miliband. What does he say? We will keep to the Tory spending plans if we're elected in 2015. We will keep to the Tory spending plans. £83 billion worth of cuts, brothers and sisters. And you've got a Labour leader saying, vote for us and we'll implement the same cuts. Why the hell would you vote for them then? Would you trust them to run a Bath, never mind a country? Is it any wonder? Is it any wonder the working class of England are so disillusioned, are withdrawn from the electoral process? You look what happened at the European elections last month. UKIP, a bunch of right-wing, chauvinist, racists, win a European election. Not because millions of extra people voted for them. On the contrary, they got less votes this year than they did last year. But the reason they won is because millions stayed away from the polls. Why? Because they're disenfranchised. Nobody represents their views any longer. These people are part of the Westminster culture. They don't give a damn about Scotland. I've got a report there from Oxfam. Oxfam analysed the effect of this condemned government's first year in power with their cuts in public services, their cuts in welfare. Oxfam concluded that after 1 year of the condemned government, 900,000 extra people, 900,000, almost a million more people are now living in poverty. Almost a million, 300,000 more kids, 300,000 more waves living in poverty as a result of these swine in government. And they are going to stick to the spending plans. Oxfam went on to describe this condemned government as speeded up Thatcherism. Speeded up Thatcherism. They then gave us a warning that we ignore at our peril. They gave us a warning that so far, of all the cuts that have been announced, only 40% have been implemented. There's another 60% to come. I'm going to probably insult some people in the audience tonight. I'm going to apologise right from the outset. But that particular story was highlighted 2 weeks ago when that ginger rodent Dali Alexander was found in his car with a dossier open, and the photographers managed to get a wee picture. And what did the wee picture say? The wee picture said that the job losses due in the next 12 months as a result of the cuts will amount to 490,000. 490,000 jobs across the public sector. 60,000 in Scotland. 60,000 jobs to go. Local government, health service, education. He then goes on in that dossier to explain that they want the private sector to pick up the slack. So what they're going to do is they're going to impose pay restraint on the remaining workforce and offer reduced hours. So see those of you in the public sector who are worried about losing your jobs, even if you keep your job, you're going to be working for less and you're going to be offered less hours. That's the reality, brothers and sisters, of a no vote. You see, people say sometimes to me, oh, but Tommy, you know, are we no better sitting with the devil we know? Are we no better going for the stability? Are we no better sticking with the Tories, at least know where we are? You know, it's no stability. It's no status quo. Things aren't going to stay the same if we vote no. Things are going to get worse, much worse if we vote no. People want certainties. People say all the time, Tommy, can you be certain about what's going to happen in independent Scotland? Can you be certain about extra spending in health, certain about extra spending in education, certain about extra spending in social housing? I've got to say to you, I can't be absolutely certain. I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow. I can't be absolutely certain. I can be as certain as possible with the agenda and the information I've got to hand. But I'll tell you what I can be certain about, absolutely certain about. If we vote no, you can be certain that there's going to be more cuts, more unemployment, more low pay. We're going to have more privatisation. Things are going to get worse in a Scotland that stays with the UK. That's why we would be fools, absolute fools, selfish fools. Selfish. Because what we're passing on to our kids if we don't take this opportunity to vote yes. We don't just have the freedom to get rid of the Tories or the Gilla. We've got the freedom, brothers and sisters, to save essential public services. What does a yes vote mean? A yes vote means that we save the National Health Service. A yes vote means that we save free education. I'm fed up listening to these political ignoramuses, these economic illiterate politicians who'll say, oh, don't worry. If you vote no, it won't affect whether the health service is public. It won't affect whether education stays free. Because it's devolved. The Scottish Parliament controls it anyway. When are they going to tell you the truth? Aye, it's devolved. But who gives us the money for it? It's Westminster that decides how much money that we've got for our health and our education. And by the way, we'll come on to this in a minute. It's our money they give us. It's just that they give us less back than we give them. That's the reality. We have a public health service that we're very proud of. We've got free prescriptions, we have free elderly care. We're trying to get the private sector of the health service altogether. The Jubilee Hospital, private hospital in Clydebank. I remember taking my mother-in-law there for a session of breast cancer chemotherapy. At the time that it was private, the health service had to pay the Jubilee Hospital so that she could get treated there. And I remember thinking, brilliant, absolute 5-star hotel. That's what it was like. I thought, this is the way the health service should be. At that time, that hospital carried out something like 2,500 procedures a year. Now, as part of the public sector, they carry out over 100,000 procedures a year. That's what public health should be about. That's what public health should be about. Education. As a socialist, I've got to say to you loud and clear, I'm not happy to know that education is open enough for the working class. 1981, I had the chance. We boy for Pollock, my mum and dad were low-paid workers. I qualified for a grant. 1981, going to Stirling University. I got a living grant to study at university. If I hadn't got that, I couldn't have went. Brothers and sisters, in an independent Scotland, I don't want to keep the doors of the university at the state they are now. I want to open the door wider. In an independent Scotland, every working class wage should get a grant to go and study at university. That's the reality. That's open the door. But we have to be absolutely honest with ourselves here. We've got 17 days here to convince people, to debate with people and let them know that if they think that our health service and our education services are going to remain free and accessible after a no vote, they are completely and utterly deluded. Deluded. Here's the scenario. 19th September, Scotland's voted no. The politicians, you're doing to Westminster. Hi, how's it gone there? We know you've got the Health and Social Care Act that you passed in 2012. We know you've started to privatise your health service down here in England. We know you've invited 60 firms, private firms, Royal Bank of Scotland, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Virgin Money. You've invited them to tender to provide healthcare services in England, to provide cancer care, provide children care, elderly care. Go online, folks. Go online. Look up Professor Alison Pollock. Look up Dr. Philippa Whiteford. Look at what these people who are experts in the field are already saying. The health service in England is no longer a public service. It's now a logo. It's now a logo. Within 5 years it will be private completely. And they say after a no vote in Scotland, within 10 years we'll be in the same road. We're going to go down there and say to these people, listen, we know you're doing all that, we know you're privatising your health service, but guess what? See up the road there in Scotland, we've still got the free prescriptions and that, and the free elderly care, and we want to keep the health service public now. You know, can you give us the money? They're going to look at us and say, what? You bunch of cowards. You, who sing your Flower of Scotland at your Scotland games and your rugby games, but when you had the chance to take your destiny into your own hands, ye bottled it. And now you're coming down here and asking us to give you money, to keep your health service public when we're privatising ours. On your way! On your way is what they're going to say. And then when we say, oh, but wait a minute, guess what? See our education. We don't have upfront tuition fees in Scotland. We don't charge the Wains upfront tuition fees to go to university. We know that you do in England. £9,000 a year expected to rise to 11,000 within the next 2 years. I don't know about you sitting in this audience tonight. Maybe you've got children, 15, 16, 17, maybe you've got plans, you're hoping that they're going to go to university. See, if we don't know, I hope you've got £36,000 free. I hope you've got it stashed in the drawer. And that's before accommodation, that's before books, that's before living costs. That's the reality of education down there in England right now. £9,000 a year for every student. We're going to go down there in the back of a no vote and say, hey, listen, I know you've got the tuition fees and all that, but we want to keep it free up there. Can you give us the money? They're going to laugh at us, brothers and sisters. They're going to laugh at us. And by the way, by that time, we might even have that Egypt Farage as part of the bloody government. Opinion polls sadly show that there is a prospect after next May that there could be a right-wing, very dark coalition between the Tories and UKIP running Britain. We won't have voted for them, but they'll be running our affairs unless we take the opportunity on the 18th of September to say, no, we're not having anybody else run our affairs anymore. We're going to run our own affairs. You have got the freedom to save the health service. You have got the freedom to keep education free. But the only vote that's going to do that is a yes vote. Here's something else you've got the freedom to do. I don't know about you, this might not rock all your boats. It rocks mine because of the amount of times I've been arrested outside Faz Lane, I can't remember. That's where the handcuffs come in, usually. But here's something I want to run by you folks. As a wee country, wee Scotland, wouldn't it be wonderful as a wee country if we actually did things different and we actually struck a blow for world peace? You see, I'm dead fed up. I'm dead fed up. I'm dead fed up with the images we get of the starving Wains. Horrible, horrible images. We Wains with distended stomachs, dying in front of TV screens because apparently there's not enough food in the world to feed them. Wains dying of preventable diseases like cholera and dysentery and diarrhoea because we don't have enough money to prevent the medicines and give them the medicines. We don't have enough money for mosquito nets. We've got our Live Aids, we've got our Band-Aids, we've got our Red Nose Days, we've got our UNICEF appeals before the Commonwealth Games. Brothers and sisters, I want to put this to you. Why? Why, oh why, is there never enough money to feed the Wains or to buy them the medicines? But there's always enough money for bombs and missiles and wars. Why? Can we not, as a wee small country, strike a blow for peace by announcing on the 18th of September, loud and clear, here in Scotland, we think nurses and doctors and schools and hospitals and teachers are more important than weapons of mass destruction. That's what we're talking about. Why would we continue to waste £130,000 million of taxpayers' money in scrap metal? Scrap metal, that's what it is. They're immoral, they're illegal, and they'll never be used because if they were ever used, the world would be out anyway. The game would be a bogey. And by the way, just in case there's some people thinking, oh, but Tommy, maybe we should keep them in case somebody threatens us with theirs. You don't understand. We don't have retaliatory nuclear weapons. We have first strike nuclear weapons. We can only use them if we take somebody out first. I don't want to take anybody out first, brothers and sisters. I don't want nuclear weapons in Scotland. And just in case there's any doubt here, I don't want to move nuclear weapons. My Minister of Defence have done a feasibility study, you're probably aware of this. They looked at Plymouth, they looked at Portsmouth, they concluded that the collateral damage that would result in the event of an accident was too great, so they'll just keep them in the clinic. They're calling us the Expendables 4 up here, a new film, you know, Expendables. Brothers and sisters, I don't want to move nuclear weapons to Portsmouth or to Plymouth. I want them decommissioned completely. See in the wee intervening period between removal and decommissioning, see if we have to store them anywhere. I've got no bad wee idea. There's a big river in London called the River Thames. And there's a great big house on the River Thames. In the intervening period while we're awaiting decommissioning, brothers and sisters, let's move the Trident nuclear fleet right outside the Houses of Parliament, and then let's see how quick they decommission them there. That brings us, brothers and sisters, to another question we need to answer, because we've talked about the freedom to never have a Tory government again. That's what a yes vote brings you. We've talked about the freedom to save your health service, the freedom to keep your education service, the freedom to get rid of nuclear weapons, the freedom to return the mail service to public hands where it belongs after the vote for independence, the freedom to introduce and replace the poverty minimum wage with a living wage. A living wage. How dare these multinational corporations continue to think that we are going to subsidise them and their multi-million-pound profits by allowing them to pay poverty pay and we supplement it. Oh, aye, you need housing benefit, no problem. You need working families tax credit, no problem. You need council tax credit, no problem. We'll subsidise these multinational corporations who can get away with paying poverty pay in the knowledge that the state will bail everybody out. Brothers and sisters, in an independent Scotland, let's have a living wage. A living wage and a living income for our disabled citizens, for our pensioners. We want every man, woman and child to have a higher standard of living in an independent Scotland. And while we're at it, let's make sure in an independent Scotland that alongside the living wage, we abolish the absolute disgrace of the exploitation predominantly of young workers. Most of them paid less than the minimum wage. Alongside a living wage, let's abolish the disgrace of 0-hour contracts as well. Let's get to the weekend. Let's get rid of the idea, this horrible, horrible phrase that we've allowed to become normalised. We've allowed to become part of the lexicon of everyday language. The working poor. Why should workers be poor? If they've got a job, they should have some dignity and a decent income. That's what we've got to legislate for in an independent Scotland, brothers and sisters. And by the way, anybody that's there thinking, oh, but Tommy, can we afford that? Can we afford to spend extra on health? Can we afford to spend extra on education? Can we afford to introduce legislation that's going to make sure there's living wages? Are we going to be able to create the jobs in an independent Scotland and pay decent wages for local authorities? Brothers and sisters, this is the single biggest lie that we have to tackle here. This wee country, Scotland, well, by the way, we'll be bigger than some, we'll be smaller than others. So we're just an average size country, so we're big enough. Smart enough, 5 first-class universities, world renowned for research and development in medicine, engineering. For goodness sakes, we have given the world quite a wee bit of innovation in the past, haven't we? Whether it's penicillin, whether it's the telephone, whether it's the television. So we're certainly smart enough. Are we rich enough? That's the other question. Are we rich enough? Folks, I took part in a wee debate recently with the Belgian Michael Buffon Portillo. He was sitting across from me in a makeshift Edinburgh studio a few weeks back, sitting there resplendent in his tucked trousers and no pockets because he doesn't need them, doesn't ever go into them. So when he was a minister in government, he never had to go into them because we paid for everything. Now he's a pundit at the BBC and we pay for everything. So there you go, things never change. And the bold Michael listened to me talking about an independent Scotland. And he talked about me saying in an independent Scotland we could raise our sights, we could raise our vision, instead of looking down the way to what England's doing, instead of looking down to the race to the bottom. Let's see how little we can actually pay people. Let's see how many people we can take off contracts of employment, put them on to 0 hours, phone them day to day and give them a job, but don't pay them any sickness pay, don't pay them any holiday pay, don't pay any national insurance. Let's see how we can do that. Let's see how many more people we can get into poverty, fighting among themselves for the scraps off the table. They want us to follow that. I said, in independent Scotland, we're not going to follow that. We're actually going to look across the water. We're going to look at the Norways and the Denmarks and the Swedens, and we're going to say, hey, wait a wee minute. They've got high wage economies. They've got first class public services. They've got poverty levels less than 5%. How come they've got all that and we haven't? It must be possible. They must be doing something that we could do. And the bold Michael listened to me for a wee while, and then with his patronising glare, he said, oh, what Mr. Sheridan fails to understand, of course, in this independent Scotland, Scotland will lose England's subsidies. I thought, there goes the waste of a very expensive private education. England's subsidies. A so-called educated man 3 weeks ago trying to talk about England's subsidies. Brothers and sisters, please take this away tonight. If you take nothing else away, please take away the fact, economic, indisputable fact, that in the last 33 years in a row, consecutively, no a flash in the pan, no one or two, 33 years in a row, this wee country, Scotland, has paid more into the Westminster pot than we've got back from the Westminster pot. That's the reality. We ain't no subsidy junkies. We're net contributors to the UK economy. We are perfectly capable of standing on our own 2 feet economically. Every economic analysis has been done has shown that Scotland is more capable than any other country that's ever declared its independence to stand on its own 2 feet. We have the economic wherewithal. I spoke way back in February with a group called Businesses for Independence, Glasgow University debate. They had 1,500 members at that time, small businesses all signed up to the idea of an independent Scotland. I remember thinking to myself, that's interesting, 1,500 small businesses signed up to independence. According to all this, no brigade, the economy's going to collapse, all the jobs are going to disappear, but we've got 1,500 businesses signed up for independence. Spoke with them 3 weeks ago in front of all. 2,500 members now. 2,500 small businesses signed up. They've done the detailed research. It's all available. Go online if you don't believe me. Businesses for Independence, you'll see it there. In the last 5 years, think about this. We have got this Tory condemned mob about to introduce 60,000 job losses in Scotland and to take an axe to even more public services, elderly care, children's care, community centres. That's what's round the corner. And yet, in the last 5 years alone, if Scotland had kept the money that we raised and spent it in Scotland instead of giving it to London, we would have had £8.3 billion extra to spend. £8.3 billion. You know what that means yearly? That means 1.65 billion, £1,650 million extra to spend every year in each of the last 5 years on health, on education, on elderly care, on children's services. £1.65 billion. Brothers and sisters, seen an independent Scotland. We're not going to be talking about whether we cut first. We're going to be having a debate about where do we invest first. That's what we're going to be talking about in an independent Scotland. That's the potential. And some people ask at the meeting story, how quick will we feel the benefit of an independent Scotland if we vote yes? I'll tell you how quick. 24 hours. 24 hours, why? Because as soon as we vote for independence, then we'll be saying to the politicians in Hollywood, no more cuts, no more job losses. Tell the Tories you're not put into the austerity measures. That's what we'll be saying over here. I've got a document there for Unison Scotland, the trade union, the public sector trade union, where they explain that 60% of the cuts are still to come. 60,000 job losses still to come. That's what's reflected in Danny Alexander's dossier. Brothers and sisters, we will be saying loud and clear, as soon as we vote independence, why would you cut another 60,000 jobs? We don't need to cut another single job. We are going to say to the politicians, and they'll listen. They'll listen, because there's an election in 2 years' time. What politician in Hollywood wants to be responsible for cutting 60,000 jobs when they're going to be standing for re-election in 2 years' time? That's the strength we have here to stop the austerity measures taking place in Scotland. By the way, we have to understand there are a lot of people with passion, with gusto, with lots of energy, fighting to save their jobs, fighting to save their wages, fighting to save their pensions, fighting to save their expense accounts, fighting to save their second and third homes. They're called Labour MPs. They're fighting very, very hard. That's why they're campaigning for Labour. We have the potential, brothers and sisters, and we don't want to stand still, do we? I don't want independence so that everything's the same. I want independence so that we transform Scotland. I want us to recognise that independence is not a destination. It's only the start of the journey. The start of the journey to transform Scotland. That's what independence is. I want independence so that we can have the economic powers, the economic tools to tackle the poverty, to tackle the unemployment, to tackle the deprivation. I'm fed up. I'm fed up, brothers and sisters. See these statistics. Please remember them. Please remember that 1 in 4 of the range in Scotland are getting born into poverty. Please remember that over 1 million workers are officially low paid. Please remember that 1 million families across the UK rely on food banks for survival. That the British Red Cross is now giving out food parcels for the first time since the Second World War. 4,000 Marines a day in Glasgow getting food out of food banks. Please bear in mind the statistics that we've got the second lowest pensions in the whole of Europe, that we've got the longest hours in Europe, the highest housing costs in Europe, the highest transport costs in Europe, the highest childcare costs in Europe. Please remember all of those statistics so that the next time you see somebody campaigning for a no vote, you go up to them and you say, hey you, see if we are better together. Why are we not better today? Why are we not better today? There is nothing down for us any longer, staying with this corrupt Westminster system, brothers and sisters. We have got the chance as a small nation to get off the bus. Get off the bus. The bus that's heading towards more privatisation, heading towards more poverty pay, heading towards more food banks, more zero hours contracts, more payday loans. We can get off the bus and say, nah, we're going to do things differently here in Scotland. And by the way, getting off that bus isn't abandoning the English working class. On the contrary, by voting independence, we're going to lead the English working class. That's what we're going to do. We're going to lead it. we're going to show in concrete terms, brothers and sisters, that there is an alternative to the neoliberal claptrap that's on offer for all the Westminster parties. We're going to invest in health, we're going to invest in education, we're going to invest in social housing, we're going to close the wealth gap, we're going to make Scotland a fairer, more equal country to live in, and the English working class are going to say, hey, we'll have some of that. If the jocks can do it, so can we. That's what they're going to say. So to anybody, particularly trade unionists, to anybody who says, oh, I'm worried about leaving my brothers and sisters behind, no, we're not leaving them behind. We are going into the breach. We are taking them on in the front line. We are creating a new Scotland to show by example that there is an alternative. Brothers and sisters, you know, we have got so much potential. We've got the ability to spend that money that I talked about. I don't want to spend that on new hospitals, new homes. Think about the other things that we can do. Think about the scandal, the absolute scandal, and the amount of pensioners in this country that are so poor, that are so frightened they end up dying prematurely of hypothermia because they don't want to turn on their fires, because they can't afford the gas and the electricity bills. See, in an independent Scotland, we can do what that shower of spineless politicians called the Labour Party refused to do in 13 years. 13 years in government. Why did they not do what we're going to do? Take back the gas and the electricity in public hands. Give them in public hands. Let's be clear here, brothers and sisters. The working class of Scotland, the working class of England, have not abandoned the Labour Party. The Labour Party's abandoned the working class. That's what's happened. We don't just have £1.65 billion extra in revenue to spend. We've also got our savings. 400 million in one office for a new London sewage system. They want 5,000 million office for the high-speed HS2 rail line that doesn't come in Scotland. They'll have to pay 5 million for it. They want 1.6 billion for London Crossrail. They want 15.8 billion defence costs that we get no protection from. They want, and by the way, this is a lovely one, isn't it? They want us to continue to pay for the expenses and the wages of the MPs and the four horsemen of the apocalypse, the lords that have been dispatched, the supermen of the No Camp, Lord Reid and Lord Robertson and Lord Foulkes and Lord McConnell. They're out there in the new in their ermine capes flying through the sky. Telling you, it'll be cataclysmic, to use Lord Bomber Robertson's words. It'll be cataclysmic if you vote yes. We're going to be a target for terrorists. We're going to be unsafe. The clouds are going to fall from the sky. These four men of the apocalypse have been dispatched. And what we have to know loud and clear is they don't give a damn about working class people in Livingston or any other part of Scotland. They don't care about the living standards of the wages. What these people? The reason these people are so active in trying to convince you to vote no is because they know on the 19th of September they're getting a letter on the letterbox and it'll be the P45 because they don't need it. Brothers and sisters, I want to finish my remarks and we'll open up for questions. I want to finish by reminding you that it has been a great pleasure, a fantastic pleasure, to tour this country of ours, to speak at 91 meetings, packed meetings, standing room only meetings. People absolutely determined to hear the case for independence, want to get the arguments for independence. There's a pamphlet that we've produced. A wee pamphlet here, hopefully you can dig into your pockets and use a pound for this because nobody on this Hope for Fear tour gets paid. This is all voluntary stuff. but the people that bring the banners and the PA, they all have to pay petrol for the cars. So if you can afford £1 later for a pamphlet, please do so. This wee pamphlet is a speech that I made in Kirkcaldy on the 23rd of January this year. Somebody put it on YouTube in February. It's now got 150,000 views. 150,000 views. That's what I'm saying to you. Do you think that's reflected in the opinion polls? Do you think that type of interest, people researching for themselves, people going looking for the ideas, do you think that's reflected in these Systems 3 opinion polls with their wee panels? Brothers and sisters, it's been a great pleasure to tour the country, but it's got an opportunity cost. It's got an opportunity cost because I happen to be blessed with a very beautiful wife and an absolutely adorable daughter. A 9-year-old called Gabrielle, who, before I left the house tonight, put her arms around me and said, "Daddy, do you need to go to that meeting?" She did the same to me yesterday when I was leaving. She said, "I want you to stay in and play with me." Right? 9 years of age. All of you know what I'm talking about, particularly if you work away from home yourselves, maybe in the rigs or HGV drivers or maybe the armed forces or whatever. You know what it's like. It's hard. It's hard to tell her away. I sometimes take her to meetings. I try and take her to meetings. The problem is she keeps saying, "Daddy, I've heard it all before." The honesty of children, eh? It is hard, brothers and sisters, but you know what? The thing that consoles me, I'm fighting for my win. I'm fighting for my win because you know what? See, as a 50-year-old, I'm going to live in a better Scotland. Independent Scotland's going to be a better country to live in. I'm going to benefit for that. But you know who the real beneficiaries are going to be? They're going to be the 9-year-olds and the 10-year-olds who are going to grow up in a country who are less poverty. We're going to grow up in a country with less poverty, less unemployment, more educational opportunities, more employment opportunities. We're going to grow up in a country that doesn't have nuclear weapons of mass destruction on its doorstep. We're going to grow up in a country that's less socially divided, that's more equal. We're going to grow up in a country that actually tries to produce energy in an environmentally friendly form by using the wind, wave and solar power. They're going to grow up in a country that's more at peace with itself. A country that's known across the planet as a country of peace. Brothers and sisters, they're the ones that are going to benefit from an independent Scotland. I want my vision, might not be everybody's vision. We've got differences of opinion on currency, we've got differences of opinion on the European Union, we've got differences of opinion on who should be the head of state. I'll go into them if you want, but the truth is, they're irrelevant. All these questions are irrelevant unless we get independence. Personally, I don't want the Bank of England involved in independent Scotland. I want an independent. I want an independent, publicly owned Scottish bank running a Scottish currency in an independent Scotland. That's what I want. I think the European Union is full of corruption and promotes privatisation of public services. I don't want to be a member of the European Union. When it comes to the head of state, I've got no particular dislike of the royal family, but I disagree with the SNP. They want to slim down monarchy. I don't want to put them on a diet slim faster than anyone. I just don't agree that anybody should have any authority over my life unless they're elected. That's what I think. Those questions we can discuss and we can debate. The yes tent is mammoth. Hundreds of thousands of people within the yes tent. We're all campaigning for the one thing, independence. But we've all got different wee visions of how we'd like to see an independent Scotland be. We can have those debates in the future. I might lose all the debates. I might be on the wrong side of all three of those debates. But by the way, I can accept it. Because Scotland will have decided. Scotland will have decided what's best for Scotland instead of somebody else deciding it for us. That would be a difference. My vision of an independent Scotland, brothers and sisters, where we use the wealth that we've got We take the oil and we do what every other oil producing country in the world does. They have it public like Norway, like Sweden, like Kuwait, like Venezuela, like all the Middle East countries. Oil's public. It should be public in Scotland as well. We should use all of that wealth so that my vision for an independent Scotland 25 years from now is with the wee wains sitting on their mammy's knees saying things like, "Mammy, what was poverty? Mammy, what was racism? Mammy, what was homelessness? Mammy, what were nuclear weapons?" That's what I want as a vision for the future. Brothers and sisters, I'm going to finish on this. It's the words of a song which keeps me going whenever I get sad thinking about giving up time to no be with my Wayne and no be with my wife. It's a song by a girl called Labby Sifry, and it sums up for me the struggle that we're involved in. Think about everybody out there. All the powerful media moguls, all the millionaires have told us for years that we're no good enough, we're no big enough, we're no rich enough, we're no smart enough. Remember this verse. Brothers and sisters, when they insist we're just not good enough, when we know better, just look them in the eyes and say, we're going to do it anyway. Thanks very much, brothers and sisters.
I was just saying that I said earlier that I thought this was going to be one of the more inspiring nights in my 30 years as a local councillor here, and I'm going to leave here absolutely inspired. Thank you, Tom. Let me give you one thing to think about Better Together. A male child born here in Ladywell tomorrow, in Lochbank or Larchbank or Heatherbank, can expect to live 7 years less than a male child born on exactly the same day in the leafy suburbs of Muiriston, just 7 miles down the road, and still in the same Livingston South Council ward. That is what Better Together means, and it's not good enough. We're going to move on now. We've got about half an hour before the Jannies will be looking to kick us out. Questions and some answers from Tommy. We've got a couple of individuals with roving mics. Here they come. So if you have a question, if you can stick your hand up. And the first question is the guy in the maroon top, I think it is in the back.
Folks, if you just wouldn't mind just saying your first name and then ask a question, and I'll try and answer it the best I can. I know I appreciate there'll be some people who can't stay for the question, so thanks very much for coming along. So don't feel guilty if you have to leave early, if you've got childcare responsibilities or maybe work responsibilities. So thanks for coming along.
Hello.
Yes, hiya.
My name's Tommy.
I don't know if I'll be able to remember that first name.
Like yourself and like probably many people that don't really support the keeping of the monarchy. And my question is, how long would it take to get rid of the monarchy? The SNP want to keep the monarchy, so I wouldn't be voting SNP on that basis. How long would it take to get rid of them? And also a wee side thing, that the Crown own the shoreline, as far as I'm aware, for 12 miles to land. And they also are going to be charging people at Sky for a broadband line that's been running on the shoreland at the moment. So my question is, would independents be able to reverse that, and also how long would it take to get rid of the monarchy?
Tommy, it's, you're speaking to the converted, obviously. You're speaking to somebody who, in 2016, will be looking for a political manifesto that has it within its manifesto that the people of Scotland will have another referendum on whether we have an elected head of state, whether we have no head of state, or whether we keep the monarchy. Personally, I'll be campaigning probably for no head of state. I don't think we need a head of state. We've got enough politicians taking enough money, so from my point of view, I want to save resources and spend them wisely rather than spend them on other people's salaries and all the frippery that goes with these types of things. That's what will be on offer in the 2016 Scottish election, Tommy. But the reason I only mentioned these things very shortly at the end of my contribution is because when I said they're irrelevant, what I mean is, not that they're not important issues, yes they're important, they're more important to some people than others, but the point is, they're just hot air unless we get independence first. It's just hot air. You only decide on the future of monarchy, you only decide on a currency, you only decide on the European Union membership. That'll all be decided by the South East England. They decide on everything else to do, and unless we vote for independence, they'll continue to decide on everything else as well. So I'll be looking for, after independence, Tommy, a political party that's credible, that offers that type of demand within its manifesto, and that's where we'll be getting my support. I think we're going to have, in 2016, a lot of new faces in politics, a lot of new ideas in politics. I think it's going to be a very, very tasty political menu that's going to be on offer in 2016. We're going to be able to take a choice to all of that. And as I say, I'll be looking not just for, getting rid of the monarchy. Somebody says get rid of the monarchy, but we're still going to have poverty pay. I'm not going to vote for it. I want a full programme which is about social, economic justice and, quite frankly, basic democracy. Basic democracy. The monarchy has no place in a modern democracy. That's my position quite clearly. There's a truck down the middle here, and there's a lady just at the side here. First, make it easier for you to get to you. There you go.
Hi Tommy, my name's June.
June.
I'm an absolute staunch yeser. For me it's a no-brainer. There's just a wee niggle in the back of my mind. How do we ensure Scottish Parliament doesn't become as corrupt as the Westminster one?
Very good, very good question. It's a very, very good question, June. There's a whole number of things I think that we should be doing. I mean, first and foremost, we're going to have a constitution for the first time, a written constitution, which is going to underline our rights, our responsibilities, our entitlements. What we have to make sure is the people that write that constitution, under the tops at the top of Scottish society. I want a constitution that has people who are pensioners, people who are lone parents, people who are trade unionists, people who are local authority workers, health workers. I want the whole of civil Scotland to be involved in that document. I want within that document not just that our health service is never for sale. It's written into our constitution, it's never for sale. I don't just want written into that constitution that we never are a home to nuclear, biological or chemical weapons. I want that written into our constitution as well. But I also want other things written in. I want a living income written into the constitution. I want a place in education, training or employment written into our constitution. I want a decent home written into our constitution. But I'll tell you what else. I want written into our constitution that political parties are legally obliged to do after elections what they said they were going to do before elections. That's what I want written into the constitution. There is such a thing as the right of recall. It is a fact of life in many American states and many countries in Europe. And what it means is that if a politician stands for election and makes promises, and then after being elected reneges on those promises, you don't have to wait 4 years to remove them. If you can collect enough signatures, 5% of the electorate, on a petition, you can trigger a by-election in 4 weeks instead of having to wait 4 years. That's the type of participative democracy I want in the new independent Scotland. As I say at all these meetings, politicians, and I include myself, politicians are just like nappies. They should be changed regularly and for the same reason. So hopefully that answers that point, June. And one final point before the next question. This one doesn't make me popular with politicians. But I can never understand why it is you become a politician and overnight you're getting paid 3 and 4 times the average wage. I can't understand it, right? The average wage in Scotland is around 20,000. The average skilled worker's wage is around 28,000, 29,000. A lot of people sitting in here will be saying, yeah, beauty, I'd love to get that average skilled wage. Imagine getting £29,000 a year, that's great. Firefighters, they've been fighting for years to get £30,000 a year. They're the ones that go into the burning buildings when everybody's leaving them, and they're getting half what an MP's getting, so what an MSP's getting. Well, I've got to say to you, see, in an independent Scotland, why don't we peg the wages of politicians at an average wage of a skilled worker, a train driver, a firefighter? Why don't we peg the wages? Why don't we peg the wages of MSPs at the average wage of a skilled worker? I can tell you from experience, for 8 years, I lived on it. I took half the salary. I didn't have a sackcloth and Jesus sandals existence, by the way. I could afford a suit, I could afford a motor, I could afford to help my wife with a household bill. So it's not poverty, it's a decent living. See if the MSPs are on the average wage of a skilled worker, maybe they'll fight harder for everybody else to get a decent increase in wages as well. So, that's the take up, and I'll be fighting for it, June. Yourself, Philip? And then there's another chap down here.
Hello, Tom. My name's John. Committed yes voter. By the way, the lights are out. Is that an example of Tory cuts? I'd just like to know your views on an independent Scotland staying within NATO.
John, it's an easy one, mate. It's a no-brainer for me, brother. I'm an individual who believes in peace. I don't want to attack any other country in the world. I recognise that Scotland, and an independent country, is going to have a defence force. But you know what? I want it to be a defence force. I don't want it to be an invading force. I don't want to invade any other country on the planet. And I can't for the life of me understand, John, why do we get rid of nuclear weapons but stay part of a nuclear alliance? I want out of NATO. I don't think we should be part of NATO. I think we can be our own country that speaks its mind across the world and promotes peace and reconciliation across the world. The SNP recently, I think it was, well, same recently, maybe a year and a half ago, they had a very, very narrow debate. Very narrow debate. It was won by, a couple of hundred votes to change a policy that was there for years and years, that was to withdraw from NATO. I think that policy might be reversed in the future, because I think the rank and file of the SNP don't want to be part of NATO either, and I certainly don't want to be part of NATO in an independent Scotland. There's a number of ladies in the front here if we've got a mic.
Graham's got someone here.
Oh, where is it? Right here. Oh, you Graham? Graham, how's it going there? I've not met you yet.
My name's Fran Gilhooly. It's not a question, it's more a statement. I just want to draw your attention, the whole thing with Syrian Wood and the oil claims last week. And I don't know if anybody's aware yet, but the Herald last night put on their website has been caught red-handed lying. Only just over 18 months ago, he'd done an interview with the BBC. Now, the BBC broadcast everything the other day about this 15 billion oil barrels. He was caught red-handed 18 months ago. He'd done a video which somebody in the Business for Yes community seen. They said, "I worked with that guy. I remember making this video." And only 18 months ago, he claimed there was still 25 billion barrels. He was caught red-handed. If you want to see it, it's on the Herald's website.
Ran, it's an interesting point. I've also done a wee bit more research, and apparently Mr. Wood's also got his hand in some of the fracking companies, and some of the fracking companies are nervous about an independent Scotland, because in independent Scotland we're not going to remove the right for residents to complain and to protest against fracking licences. They are doing that in England, I've got to say. So maybe New Roads intervention is like all these millionaires, got a pound sign attached to it. I've got to say to you, even the most pessimistic of estimates, think about this. You go into your working order, and the boss calls you into the office. I've got something to tell you, it's no good news. Oh no, what is it? I can only guarantee your job for the next 40 years. You're going to look at them and you're going to say, oh, you're a beauty. And yet we're supposed to be frightened that the oil's running out in 2050 or 2055. What are we going to do with the oil between now and then, folks? We're going to use it, we're going to invest in it, and 1981, Mr. Heseltine, Defence Minister, stopped us from exploring and extracting the Clarefield off Shetland on the west coast. Why? Because it's in the direct shipping line of Trident. All the geological studies show we've got more oil on the west coast unextracted than we already have in the north. So let's not be frightened of big Mr. Ian Wood or any of the other multi-millionaires that are trying to scaremonger. There was down the front here, I don't know where the mics are.
Hi Tommy, my name is Billy, mate. I'm a parent, I've voted Labour all my life, Tommy, but the Labour Party that my parents vote for isn't the Labour Party I vote for. Like maybe some other people in here, I vote Labour to keep the Tories out in Great Britain. I vote SNP in the Scottish elections. But with the debacle what's happening just now with the Labour politicians in bed with the Tories, where do you see the Labour Party, the Scottish Labour Party, on September and 19th and we vote yes?
I'll tell you what, Billy, I seriously, I had a fantastic meeting last night. I had two meetings yesterday, one in Coatbridge, absolutely mobbed during the day, and then I had one at night in Belshall Academy. Again, it was mobbed, and I had the pleasure of speaking alongside Tommy Brennan, who we used to do the Ravenscraig shop steward and convener. And Tommy's 82 years of age, and he'd been a member of the Labour Party for over 60 years. He's now left the Labour Party, right? And Tommy made the point that the Labour Party in Scotland is finished. It's finished regardless of the outcome, of this referendum. The reason being, I think, Billy, is see if you've got principles and you promote your argument, you might lose the argument, but people will always respect your principles. They may not vote for you, but they'll respect your principles. This shower don't have a principle. They have no principles left any longer. They are now prepared. Did you listen to that darling there? Last week I heard it on the way back to Dunbar on the radio. And I remember him when he had a black beard. He used to speak at the Labour Party conferences, and he was always in the left wing of the Labour Party. I remember him calling for unilateral nuclear disarmament, how the Labour Party had to make a stand for unilateral nuclear disarmament, stand up for peace. Last week on the radio. Oh well, you know, we have to keep the nuclear weapons because of the jobs. Because of the jobs. Do you know, that's a bit like saying, let's not close any tobacco factories. We know they make cancer sticks, but let's just keep making cancer sticks because it keeps jobs. How ridiculous would that be? We know that if you invested the money that we're already spending in Trident and you invested in socially useful jobs, you would create 20,000 more jobs. That's the reality of the nuclear weapon. And that's why I think the Labour Party as a vehicle for change has gone, absolutely gone. Ironically enough, not everybody will agree with this, but ironically enough, you couldn't rule out, after independence, the one party that might benefit from independence is the Labour Party, because it has to recreate itself. It has to get rid of all of that old baggage, and it has to go back to what the pioneers used to stand for, when they stood for fairness and equality and public ownership and unilateral nuclear disarmament. They are going to have to rediscover themselves. Maybe the trade unions are going to wake up and actually start to insist that instead of a party that's in bed with the bosses, they get a party that fights for the workers. So in an independent Scotland, you might see the Labour Party recreated and become a socialist party again, and it might therefore become a party that people like yourself can feel confident in voting for. But right now, I think they're heading for the same extinction as the Tories. We'll get there, bloody pandas in Scotland are elected Tories as far as Westminster's concerned. And that's the direction, that's the trajectory that the Labour Party's on the move. And there was down in front there. There you go, bro. And then there's a woman just behind you as well.
Hi Tommy, it's something, I've not got a question for you, but it's what I was listening to the night. It might be relevant to the night Yes campaign. My name's Sandy.
Hi Sandy.
Please there a man with soul so dead, who never to himself has said, this is my own, my native land, land of brown heath and shaggy wood, land of the mountain and the flood, land of my sires, what mortal hand can e'er untie the filial band that knits me to thy rugged strand? Yes, Scotland, 18th of September 2014.
Probably well. Excellent. Inspiring. Right. I tell you, this woman here's been waiting for ages as well. Can we take this woman first and then take herself off?
Hi, I'm Cindy. I would hope that the Scottish Independents would help
Cindy. Thank you.
Would help single mums. I was a home carer part-time and then I went from home care to NHS as a clinical nurse. I ended up losing my home and becoming homeless because I couldn't afford the rent because in their eyes they seen I was getting more money, which technically I wasn't when it was all, and I had to be out in the street with my children, 3 children. Council don't tell you where you're going until the door is locked and your stuff's away, and I had to actually phone them and I was broke down and my kids are like that, Mum, where are you born? And I'm like, I don't know. Then they phoned me back and I got a temporary place, but that's what punishment I got for working full time to support my children, and I hope in a free Scotland that wouldn't happen.
Put it this way, Cindy. See, if it doesn't happen in a free Scotland, see if a free Scotland doesn't overhaul their welfare system and introduce a system with compassion and care at its heart, so that we actually help those that need help instead of hounding those who have either fallen in bad luck, fallen in ill health, unable to help themselves, employing private companies like those murderers Atos. How dare they? How dare they? How dare this Westminster crew think it's okay to spend 1.2 trillion bailing out banks, but when it comes to helping people like Cindy and other people that require help, then they want to hound them, they want to embarrass them, they want to throw them onto the street. See, if we don't help people like you, Cindy, it won't have been worth it. It won't have been worth it. I want an independent Scotland so that we can look back and say, see people that need a hand of help, they get it. They get a hand up, they get some help, they don't get frowned upon, they don't get scapegoated, they don't get hounded the way we've got with these people in Westminster the now. Benefit scroungers! Benefit scroungers, why don't they ever go? The real bloody scroungers, the millionaires that don't pay their taxes, that's who the scroungers are. Thanks, Cindy.
Hi Tommy, my name's Sam.
Sam.
I'm voting yes. What's getting me is there's an awful lot of people that are sitting there and they're saying, I don't know, I'm not sure yet whether I should vote yes or not. And I think that's why I'm putting this hand. Because basically, even the Tories, the Adam Smith Institute is still doing the same, that Scotland would be better off than the rest of Britain if it was an informal according to me. I don't know economics, but the different ways, even the Tories, even the Adam Smith Institute, has said that we're better off, would be better off independent. I'm working just now, and I'm earning this 20 years ago I was earning more than what I'm earning now. And that's why I'm voting. So that we, and so that other folk and the young lads coming up have got something to fight for, and it's just encouraging by the young folk that's actually doing this week. But I just want to
Sam, I think Sam, the point you're making is absolutely clear. If you think, thanks very much. If you think of the late great Nelson Mandela, May your life's choices be informed by hope, not by fear. Because what we've got here with this No campaign is nothing but the promotion of fear. That's all they're trying to do. There's nothing positive about voting no. Nothing. They just want to frighten you with change. I think you don't be frightened any longer. I think we think to ourselves here, we are big enough, we are strong enough, we are smart enough, and we're certainly rich enough, Sam. And see if all these economic think tanks were coming out and saying, oh, you'll never be able to stand on your own 2 feet, you don't have enough resources, you don't have a big enough economy. I've got to say to you, I'd still be fighting for independence. I'd still be fighting for independence. Because it's a basic human right, it's a basic democratic human right for a country to be able to run its own affairs. So I'd still fight for it. But you know what? They're not saying that. What they're saying is, you would have, without oil and gas, you would be a top 20 country, probably 18th in the world, because of your food and beverages industry, because of your tourism. With oil and gas, you've got the potential to be a top 5 country. A top 5 country in the world. That's what we've got. What is it? On that basis, girls, what is there to be frightened of but fear itself? Come on, let's have the courage to stand up and be counted. Can I just say, we're approaching 10 minutes, we'll take about 3 or 4 more questions, and what I'll do is I'll lump them all together, because I'm conscious of people having to leave, and I don't want to upset the apple cart with the meeting tonight. So take maybe 3 or 4 more contributions, and then we'll wind up, folks.
It's really an observation about Better Together's patronising advert. If you look around the room tonight, I think you'll find that it's nearly 50% women, so we're not all stuck in the kitchen. Children, because they can't get a babysitter because they feel that strongly about politics, which was out of touch they are. And secondly, the media again too is so out of touch because they're perpetrating all of this. They are shown to be corrupt. There's been studies shown by academics on the BBC, etc. And you know, sorry, just throwing me there. They're perpetrating all of this. And they're not actually getting out to speak to the grassroots people, the people who are actually making a difference. And I think it's a real shame that the 2 deadlines debates we've had these angry men shouting over each other, albeit arguing some good points at times, but they should actually have some grassroots campaigners out there doing a great job. And I think we speak more to people in Scotland, we might actually have more of the undecided sway to a better way of thinking. Final point, and sorry, I don't want to hog it too much. I've been arguing with my MP over, won't bore you to the detail, but issue that's reserved to Westminster, and I know it was reserved to Westminster, so that's why I went to my MP. Just because I live in Scotland, they banded it back up to the Scottish Government, and it's been going on for a year. I've not got any, any answers to this issue that I'm trying to fight, not for me, not for me, but for future people. And it just goes to show you how out of touch they really are, that they see the postcode Scotland as the go, it's an issue for the Scottish Government, when it's actually an issue for the reserved Westminster, it's for the Business Skills Committee. So that just shows you, like, we've got no interest in Scotland.
There's a young guy there, there's a young guy there. Take maybe 2 or 3 more folks, I'm sorry. I see a couple on the back as well. I'll try and squeeze as many in, and I'll come on at the end instead of taking one individually.
Hi Tommy, I want to speak to you about skill shortages. I'm John from Bathgate. I'm a welder in Broxburn, and over the last maybe 3 years or whatever, we've been employing more and more temp staff, and probably just under half our work is temp staff now. And what's actually happening is they guys are getting paid £2 or £3 an hour more than me, and I'm having to show them what to do. How do you feel about that? Is that outrageous or what?
Absolutely. I'm going to try and address all these questions towards the end, folks. There's a chap just in the middle there.
Hi Tom.
I just wanted to ask if you're going to run for Parliament in independent Scotland.
Take two more folks and then we'll sum up. Two more. Was that a young lady at the back with her hand up? I thought, oh, is it a boy? Sorry. Is that, and there's a chap in the ground, so take the last one there and then we'll finish it. Can you go?
My name's Fraser. I've seen a couple of your videos about land reform. How are you going to go about getting the land back with the Scottish people rather than the 16 people that own the land in Scotland?
Last one, there was a chat.
Yeah, got it. Cheers.
Got it.
For your intro, I just want to say that I feel particularly aggrieved with the media, and it's where do we go with the BBC, with the Red Tops, and all these people that have been a weapon for the Better Together campaign. Now I stopped reading these papers and stuff a few years ago, but I have seen, because they lie about where I work, a couple of them are having wobbles now. They're definitely having wobbles, and I've got a very good friend who is a bookie, and even he's beginning to say it's shifted. He says it's no any way now. He says it's shifting every day. But you're seeing this, but especially the BBC, Lassie touched on it. Where do we go with these people if we are successful and we do get an independent Scotland?
We've time maybe for one last one then, just one last one. I hate to leave meetings and people don't get a chance to ask questions. Do you want to shout it, or have you got a good voice? There you go.
And I came to that area, and I thought to myself, you daft that one. I'm not a rocket scientist. If I lived in that area, no, round about Livingston and we brought up there, and went back and looked at the area now, that had the jobs taken away from them, why on earth do they want to stay in the war? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Folks, I'm going to try and sum up this thing. Just try and take a few more moments of your time. You've been a remarkable audience. You've been very, very polite, very well mannered. I take it must be absolutely roasting up there because you're all wilting. I think that's why they've turned the lights out, by the way. It's nothing to do with Tony Pitts tonight. I think it's to try and lessen the heat. So, can I just say, it's been wonderful to have a discussion in a civilised basis, and we've had an exchange of ideas. I was a bit worried when I read some of the comments that were getting made about some of the No campaign, some of the leaders of the No campaign. One of the leaders was described as having displayed appalling behaviour. He ran a brutal regime, he presided over a permanent air of chaos and crisis, and he was a hopeless leader. And I thought, oh, it's a bit, it's a bit harsh. That was Alistair Darling talking about Gordon Brown. You think we're leading the No campaign? Is it any wonder we're doing well, eh? Folks, if you look at those questions that were asked, Sarah and also the other chap, whose name I never talked about the media. It's in the name, isn't it? British Broadcasting Corporation. They are being wielded now to try and save the British establishment. Let's be clear about what we're doing here, folks. This is one of the oldest imperialist nations in history. We're about to break it. And we're not having to pick up a gun, we're not having to pick up a stone, just a wee lead pencil. A wee lead pencil. And we could break this reactionary British state. Is it any wonder They are deploying everything at their disposal to try and frighten us, to try and tell us that it won't work, to try and tell us it will be a disaster. It's incredible how they're all hanging on now, all trying to tell us what we can and can't do. I mean, we should take some encouragement, shouldn't we? You know, Barack Obama, he said a year ago he wasn't going to get involved. And then a few weeks ago, in the end of June, he comes out and says, oh, it'll be in America's interest for a strong United Kingdom. He hopes the referendum is no. And then shortly after the bold Barack, we had the even bolder Hillary Clinton. She's apparently the president in waiting. She wanted the bumper guns about it as well. She says, oh, no, we want a strong UK. We hope the people of Scotland reject independence. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, this is going to be some story. This is going to be an incredible story. BBC 24 News on the ticker tape. America gives up its independence to come back under British tutelage. I thought this is going to be incredible. You know what? 4th of July came along, and guess what? America, they never celebrated Separation Day. They celebrated Independence Day. I've got to say to Barack and to Hillary, if independence is good enough for America, it's good enough for Scotland as well. They're the only ones that have been dragged in. The Chinese Premier. He get dragged in. I don't know if I forget his name, he forgets my name. There we go. He's been dragged out of the debate saying, oh, it's been China's interest for a strong United Kingdom. And then we had Mr. Abbott. I thought it was Abbott and Costello because it was that bloody funny way I can say, but it turns out Tony Abbott, Prime Minister of Australia 2 weeks ago. Did you read what he had to say? Only the enemies of freedom are voting yes. Only the enemies of freedom are voting yes. You think to yourself, come on, mate. Has cannabis been legalised in Australia? You've got to say to yourself, the individuals, then you've got the 200 signatories to the big letter that went to the London Times, all the worthies, the sirs and the ladies in the law just signing the letter telling us we're better together, Sir Paul McCartney the weekend, oh, we're better together. All waded in, and then with that badging, you know, the one that I thought, oh no, this is going to be a disaster for the Yes campaign, I don't know how we're going to compete. Simon Cowell's come out for you. Yet another multi-millionaire telling us what's good for him. Think about it, but think about this biased media. Think about all these people that are getting dragged into the debate, and then think, why? Why are they getting involved? Why are they getting dragged in? Because they can see the sands shifting beneath their feet. They know they're losing this, folks. They know in 17 days' time the British establishment is going to be ruined. British imperialism, hanging on by a thread, is going to be cut off, and Scotland is going to be free. That's what's going to happen. Brother talked about skill shortages. How ridiculous is it? And by the way, you can reflect this in hospitals as well. Same situation. I used to deal with it when I was in MSP. Because you've got skill shortages, you can't employ full-time workers to do the work. So what you do is you bring in temps. And of course, you bring in temps, they don't have a contract of employment, you don't have to pay them sick pay, you don't have to pay them holiday pay. It's cheap labour, but give them a couple of pounds extra per hour. So they actually get more pay than the workers that are actually doing it full time. Similarly in the hospitals, they've got the banks of nurses, bringing in the nurses, the agency nurses, paying them more money than the nurses that are actually working on the wards. Why the hell don't we have employers that are forced to take people on and give them full-time contracts in these jobs? Full-time contracts. Independent Scotland, brothers and sisters, yes, that has flourishing businesses, but flourishing businesses that are kept in check and kept in tow. Regulation isn't a bad word. You know, the businesses, we're over-regulated. If they were over-regulated, how did we not see the banking bloody crisis coming? That's because they were only regulated enough. Let's make sure that independent Scotland re-regulate business. You were asked about land reform. Most people don't understand that Scotland as a country, is the single most unequal distribution of land in the whole of Europe. And independent Scotland, how do we take the land back to where it belongs, to the people, and get rid of these absent landlords, multi-millionaires who don't even use the land, but we pay for the forestation, we pay for the hunting estates, we actually subsidise these landowners. Independent Scotland, your parliament is sovereign. Your parliament can vote to take back the land and use it productively. That's what we'll do in an independent Scotland. Josh asked the question about standing for the Scottish Parliament. Just as well my wife's not here tonight, because she would tell you no, I'll not be standing for the Scottish Parliament. I'm doing a law degree today, Josh. I'm in the middle of a law degree after the referendum. I'll go back and do my final year, and then we'll see what happens. I've got to say, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of energy to do it right, and it means you don't see your family an awful lot. So I don't know what will happen after independence. We'll see. As long as there are parties that are going to stand on socialist programmes, I'll be happy enough to support them. That's what I'll be looking for. Folks, I want to finish. I think we've had a great meeting here tonight. It's been absolutely fabulous to come along and speak to you. It's been tremendous. I want to finish by giving you a quote for a politician that's always inspired me whenever we're in big battles. A guy called Malcolm X. Some of you might have heard of him. He was the co-founder of the Black Panther Party. He was somebody who fought for civil rights for black Americans when they didn't have any, when they were treated like slaves, they didn't have the vote. They couldn't use the same toilets, couldn't use the same buses, couldn't use the same restaurants. Malcolm X and others fought for black civil rights. They fought the power of America. It was very, very difficult to get assassinated for his troubles, but he managed to win civil rights for Americans. Malcolm X used to say, if you don't stand for something, you might just fall for anything. Brothers and sisters, I think what we've got to do is we've got to stand for something in this next 17 days. We've got to answer the question, are we big enough? Yes. Are we rich enough? Yes. Are we smart enough? Yes. Brothers and sisters, are we brave enough? Yes. Let's go.